And we are live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. This is your host, Mike Lafferty. And welcome to our first podcast of 2019.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah.
We're here today to talk about Aquaman and touch on a cool Kickstarter. But let's do Aquaman first. Let me have everybody introduce themselves because it's a new year. And, uh, maybe I forgot who you guys are because I drink too much and have chronic head injuries. Aldo, starting off with Aldo. Aldo, give us your brief description and tell our listeners who you are.
Sure. I'm Aldo Regalado. I have been playing role-playing games for about 40 years now. A few years ago, I got inspired by Supers to kind of try to publish a few things, and then I was lucky enough to score the gig of co-authoring Supers Revised for Walt and Hazard Studio. And now I'm trying my hand at a supplement for that and other games as well, the Superverse. And that's me in a nutshell in terms of my gaming career.
Cool. Good to have you, Aldo. Thanks for coming back. And this is like your third appearance here at BAMF.
Yeah, third or fourth, yeah.
So make sure you check out the taco buffet as you leave the studio. It's really good on Tuesdays.
Great craft table.
Yeah.
Hell of a spread.
And Nick knows tacos because he's in Texas. And speaking of Nick Garber from Apogee Comics. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How are you doing?
All right. Nick is the head dude at Apogee Comics, and you guys are publishing just a shitload of stuff this year, right?
We are, yeah. And I am an artist there. I'm the world's most okayest artist. Yeah, we got a lot of good things coming down the pipe at Apogee. Bringing in some other creator-owned properties from some people that I've met in the con circuit last year. So we're gonna have like a diversity of genres going on. We're catching up. Well, we're gonna try to catch up to Image in about 25, 30 years. So
sweet. And last but not least, frequent host of the BAMF podcast, Walt Robillard. How you doing, Walt?
Hola. I'm the guy behind Supers, the guy that Aldo was talking about earlier. In fact, we are such in sync that our walls are the same color.
That's true. Look at that.
Are you guys secretly roommates?
No.
All right.
Are you wearing a Liege hat?
I am wearing a Liege hat. Would you like a Liege hat?
I would love a Liege hat. Does it come in an OD green?
Black right now. We'll discuss offline because today we're talking Supers.
That's
we
right.
should actually get together and have the Legionnaire podcast.
I'm in.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it.
On the off chance that you're a listener who doesn't know what Supers is, Supers is Supers Revised Edition. It's a Supers RPG that Walt publishes, and it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. You should definitely check it out. But hey, first off, before we jump into role-playing games and just get like hardcore nerdery, Aquaman, because that's the unnerdy part of this podcast of talking about superhero movies. Aquaman, Aldo, what'd you think?
Oh, wow. Well, I ran out and watched it last night. And I went in with low to middling expectations. For context, I'm not a particularly big fan of most of the DC movies. Didn't like tonally what Man of Steel did for Superman. Didn't like Dawn of Justice. Really liked Wonder Woman, and I think I enjoyed Justice League more than most folks did. So I was, I haven't seen Suicide Squad, so I went in not really knowing what to expect because I've kind of swayed back and forth in terms of their universe quite a bit, and I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I'm still kind of processing it in my mind. I kind of feel like they tried kicking off this whole universe in this really grim and gritty way, and they kind of made the conscious decision that grim and gritty is actually not working as well as they thought it would, so that they, and we see this with the last minute rewritings they did for Justice League, that they said, okay, well, we're just going to try to inject some of the humor of Marvel into this. And it kind of works for me, but at the same time, I kind of feel since they're doing it, it's not coming organically from the kind of characters they've created necessarily and all that. So sometimes I feel like, and I don't know who they is, but sometimes I feel that it's a bit forced and it's a bit, I don't know, a bit heavy-handed. And for me in this movie, it kind of did that, and it kind of but it played out in kind of comical ways for me. Like I appreciate that they I I appreciate that they embraced the genre elements that are fun, right? Like Black Manta's all out, Black Manta costume and all of that. I appreciate that. I enjoy it because I like that. All of the Atlantean, the Atlantean elite guard costumes and all that. Those are the types of things that when I'm GMing, I know I put into my games. So I don't want to critique it in a negative way. I kind of enjoy that, but at the same time, it kind of translated to me in kind of comical ways onto into the movie. That I don't know that I think maybe it could have been finessed in a way that would have been a little bit more modification while still retaining some of those essential elements to make it work. I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the writing, the dialogue in particular, and some of the acting and some of the situations felt forced. But again, overall, watching it, I did enjoy the romp. I did enjoy the big, beautiful kind of battle scenes and cityscapes of Atlantis, and all of just how teeming with life and detail and color the underwater universe that they created looked. I mean, there was a lot there visually to draw me in. There were some cool combat beats to really kind of enjoy, but the other elements kind of pulled it away sometimes. And sometimes I find myself like actively laughing, and maybe not in the way that they wanted me to necessarily, but I enjoyed it.
I kept saying to my wife while watching this, I mean, were they fucking with Amber Heard with that wig?
I kept getting drawn to that too. Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I think I said to Nick and Walt, we were waiting to get all the technical stuff ironed out. Kind of well, this sounds worse than I meant it to, but kind of reminded me of a fun drunk redneck uncle. He's dumb, but in a fun way. But I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with the movie. I've been describing it as kind of like if the first Thor movie and National Treasure had a baby. But,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
it's perfect.
But Nick, what do you think?
Nick is broken.
Nick, you're on mute.
All right, how do I know?
We can hear you.
Got to hit the clicker. First rule of radio: make sure that you're not always muted.
And just make sure the clicker unmutes your radio and doesn't activate your yard defenses.
Oh God, I think that's another clicker, but I could be wrong. My hydro cannons at Atlantis. No, I overall I enjoyed the movie. I went in there kind of with low expectations. I mean, after all, it's fucking Aquaman. I like Jason Momoa. Shit, I mean, first time I heard of him was like he did that shitty Conan remake.
Mm-hmm.
And
shitty.
I enjoyed it, but it was horrible at the same time. It was like the worst movie ever. It's up there with like Plan 9 from Outer Space. But yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It was fun. It was colorful. I like how DC really wanted to stay true to the costumes inside the comic. Amber Heard, what the shits with that wig? I was just waiting for her to like pull out a fork and start combing her hair like Ariel. But that didn't happen, and then I was kind of let down. Visual effects were awesome. Black Manta was really cool. I kind of like how they set up his character, and how they tease him to return as maybe a bigger villain. But with the whole extended DC universe, the EDCU or whatever, they got to work on that. It seems like they kind of went in reverse. They're like, okay, well, we're going to do Man of Steel. Hey, wait, we're going to build a universe around this. Now we're going to do Dawn of Justice. Then Wonder Woman. And then, yeah, we're going to do Justice League. I like Justice League. I like Man of Steel. The director's cut of Dawn of Justice was cool. But I kind of like how they went a little bit lighthearted with this one because he's kind of a lighthearted character. Like nobody really takes him serious. He was the butt of the jokes and the Super Friends. He even had a couple of jokes at his expense in Justice League. I hear you talk to fish. But with the New 52, when those comics came out, they kind of made Aquaman a badass, and that's what I think they went with this. Jason Momoa as like this biker surfer, Aquaman, and I like how they kind of explained why he is kind of a formidable force. That his body's so dense it can survive deep depths. He's of a royal line, so he can breathe air as well as water. They kind of set up a nice mythology there. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool, and Ocean Master was just the right level of douche that I couldn't wait to see him get his ass kicked. He's cocky, he's arrogant, he's regal. I just couldn't wait to see him get knocked on his ass.
Hey, who was playing Ocean Master? Wasn't he in Watchmen?
Yeah, he's the one that played Night Owl. Jason? No, something. Patrick. Fuck. Hold on, I got it up.
Magic Google machine powers go.
IMDb and go. Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. All right, cool. Yeah, I was talking to him about this Walt about this. I don't know if you guys knew, but the Karathan, if I'm saying it right, the huge sea-bound kaiju he got in the side at the end, that was voiced by Julie Andrews.
Was it really awesome?
Yeah, that was Mary Poppins. She did make a cameo in the Mary Poppins movie, but she did one in Aquaman. So
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Exactly. So what do you think?
I had a lot of fun with it. Once again, most of the panel here, we really always pretty much enjoy the Marvel movies because they understand a certain balance that comic books strike between a serious subject and then enough lightheartedness that you're not beaten over the head with that subject. So right. I went in with it to, as hopefully a playful movie because of the way that Momoa was promoting it. Just his promotion alone, I was sold. Like when he did the premiere in Hawaii, he dedicated the movie to all the Polynesian peoples, and did a haka and all this really fun stuff to introduce people to that kind of culture, which I'm always geeking out about stuff like that. So that was fun. The element that I really enjoyed of the movie, and I don't think we get enough of it in a lot of fiction and media today, is at the end, spoilers if you have not seen the movie, at the end when he totally kicks Ocean Master's ass, everybody's in chains, everybody's showing up for the big, like, yo, bro, high five, dude. When that happens, he looks at Ocean Master and he's like, yo, when some of this settles down, I'll come see you. And he's just like, there was an element of forgiveness there, and you don't get a lot of that in a lot of media. It's like, kill the villain, he must die, or rot in a cell, Lex Luthor style, and blah blah blah. So it was just nice to see that kind of element creep its way into a movie, because you don't get that a lot, especially in superhero media. Because even in like the earlier Batman movies, a lot of these villains die, and you don't get the chance for not so much redemption, but just to see, like Nick was saying, he was just the right amount of douche. So is it mommy issues? Daddy beat him? I mean, what's the deal? And maybe that brother coming back into his life, that might do whatever. But I mean, that might be reaching a little bit. But I think I really enjoyed a lot of the movie. I enjoyed Black Manta's explanation of why the helmet's so big. Yeah. Wow, this is going to blow off half my face. I should move this away from my nose.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that moment in the movie, and I agree. That was a really, really nice moment. And there's also a very subtle moment right before that, which is when Vulko comes and says, he throws back the line that Ocean Master used on him, and he said, make sure he has a good seat.
Yeah.
And Ocean Master's facial response to that, he's like, yeah, you got me. And that was it was just very subtle, almost throwaway kind of thing, but it added kind of a layer. It kind of humanized him, where he's not beyond, in that moment of defeat, he's not beyond saying, yeah, okay, I was kind of a douche when I said that originally to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought that was cool. Something that it didn't bother me because I kind of expected out of a movie like this, but I just noted it again. that it's unfortunate in some ways that Ocean Master's critique, like when Ocean Master, right, they take all the pollution of the ocean and dump it back onto land, that in a sense that real world problem is kind of like, in service of the superhero story, that real world problem isn't given any sort of weight. It's kind of thrown away as like, oh yeah, well the madman is just going to do this, and that's something that we have to fight against. When actually, right, this is a real pressing problem for us. And in a sense, I thought it was interesting that they did. We have this hidden world story, and Black Panther was a hidden world story as well. And in the Black Panther, it's interesting that that movie ends with, okay, well, we're going to open up to the world and we're going to embrace these issues, and maybe we have to own up some of our own stuff and whatever. We're going to embrace,
And get
we're
a
going to open up.
Starbucks.
And yeah,
Yeah.
right. Whereas in this, the hidden world remained hidden, and that may change, but that will probably change in sequels. But I just thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition. Like to some degree, the Black Panther movie gave more of a nod to acknowledging some of the heftier things that are going on here, and this movie, at least for now, just kind of like washes its hands of it pretty easily.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, sometimes it's weird when you get real life issues in comic book superhero media. I remember, oh god, this is probably too heavy, but after 9/11, Marvel Comics had a comic out where you had like the Thor and the Hulk and Ground Zero, digging for survivors and trying to put stuff back together. And I was talking to my comic shop over. He's like, this is fucking jive. I mean, there are real people down there doing this. When you say it's a superhero, you can't take something away from it. So,
right.
I think it can be touchy when you go on that. But we're gonna say, Walt.
I was going to go the other way with it, where you can tell that at some point somebody who had something to do with this movie was into role playing games, because you had the MacGuffin, you had lots of chase scenes and escapes, like Nick was saying. Water cannons. I mean, there were a lot of game elements that you could, if you were an aspiring referee, game master, narrator, judge, you could say, let me go mine this movie for story beats and mine this movie for game elements, because especially with the amount of time somebody shows up to try and kick Jason Momoa's ass. I know in Supers, it's really easy to put mooks and minions in because of the style of the game. You just give it a rating, and that rating can carry that NPC up until you either kick his ass or whatever. So creating like the Atlantean Guard on the fly. You can literally do it by turning to a page, going, "Yep, that's what I need," and 30 seconds later, you have bad guys at the table for an impromptu session. So, I mean, those kind of elements in a movie like that gives you like fuel for stuff like this is amazing. We talked about the same thing with Days of Future Past. When that came out, I was geeking out in the theater because so much of what you could use were straight to the game table, especially like using the teleportation that Blink had to battle enemies. I mean, that those game mechanics were right there. So, I mean, getting into a movie like that and stealing game statistics is a treat for somebody who games at the table.
Yeah, one of the many cool things about Supers is how quickly you can get up and get running. Hey, speaking of Supers.
Yes, you like my blunt force segue?
That was seductive and graceful, Walt. Thank you very much. Aldo, I understand you might have a project for Supers, right? Hey, tell us about that.
I do. Well, this is the Superverse, which I've been developing for a while. For folks who don't know what it is, it's a campaign source book. It emerged out of two character books that I produced for the first edition of Supers: the Freedom Ring, which was a group of superheroes, non-player character superheroes, and the Iron Gauntlet, which were villains that were connected to the Freedom Ring in different ways. And the Freedom Ring was originally conceived of as a group of superheroes that are operating perhaps depending on the GM's kind of choice of emphasis, but they were designed so they could kind of be vigilantes in a sense where they could be rivals to or foils for a player character team, right? So both teams are meant to be grist for for a campaign where player characters are central to it. But in trying to think about what to do with those characters for Supers Revised, I decided that it would be cool to have a set of adventures that Judge could run, and through the adventures introduce a group of player characters a bit at a time, one here, one there, to these NPCs. And the adventures are kind of set before either of the two teams is fully realized, right? So the idea is that if you're playing the adventures, you're going to be running into these characters before they would perhaps form the Freedom Ring or the Iron Gauntlet. And because of the way that they interact with the heroes, they might go in different directions, right? So anyway, so the Freedom Ring,
is it fair to call it an adventure path?
it is, yes, I would say so. I would say it's a it's 4 adventure paths basically, in a sense. I mean, they're 4 interlinked adventures, right?
Wow,
So you can run them each individually. You can put space in between them and run other stuff in between.
So we have 4 interlinked adventures, and the Super Revised, obviously, hero system, big deal. Icon
Yeah.
Smash and a super game.
That's right. That's
and,
right.
hey, just right now, you funded.
Oh, I just funded. I know right before I logged on, I was at 1 away from funding. But cool, great, thank you for letting me know.
Now you're 1 above funding.
Well, I'm 1 above funding now. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, that's great. Yeah. So perfect. Yeah, that's we have a series of, I think, exciting stretch goals to aim for now, because the first funding level got us through the maps for the adventures, which were the last essential element to have this be a fully functioning book. But what I would like to do now is include as much Joe Singleton art as I can in it. I have a set of art pieces that I want to do, and also possibly unique system covers, right? So like a hero system cover, an icons cover, etc. And but whether or not those go through depend on the stretch goals. But this will get it out there as a playable, usable supplement.
And
in addition,
can we get the Nick Garber specialty cover?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Add it to my lineup of work. That's gonna be a busy 2019, I'll tell you.
Yeah. We can talk. That'd be great.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. And,
but so in addition to, I'm sorry. Well, really quickly. Do you want me to run through the other stuff really quickly? I know I took a little bit of a segue there.
No, it's cool, man. I wanted to give a shout out to Joe Singleton, who's doing most of your art, because
oh God, yeah.
Joe's a good guy. He's done a lot of art for both me and Walt in various books. He's a great guy. He makes a great quiche. A lot of people know that. Gives a fabulous shoulder massage, but fantastic artist. And yeah, I'm sorry. Go back to you, Aldo. What were you saying?
No. I've absolutely loved working with Joe, and the latest thing I'm geeking out on. The last little bit that I could fund before the Kickstarter ran was I decided to have Joe take a shot at the one of the alternate covers, which would be for the hero system. I said, if you can just do some pencils for me and maybe some inks, I think I can afford that, and then I can use that, to show to the community as something that they can have if the stretch goals are met. And it's an homage to the Big Blue Book, the Hero System 4th edition book, but with Freedom Star, where Seeker would be, and Malifon, who's one of the major cosmic bad guys in the book, where Dr. Destroyer would be. And I'm just totally geeking out over the way that he did that. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So hopefully that'll see funding.
That is some old school geeking here going on there, Aldo.
Yeah, well,
the Big Blue Book was a while back, but no,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. But I'm an old time Champions player. I played that for 20 years.
It's weird how Champions players. I mean, they haven't died off. I mean, they're still into the system. They're still very, very passionate about it. So yeah, that is a cool thing. Stretch goals. What do you got?
Well, it's let me see. It's mostly art, right? We've got it's all art really at this point. The next stretch goal is funding the interior art pieces for, like, for instance, so one of the things that the Superverse also includes is a timeline of the universe. It goes back to the Big Bang. The entire timeline is built out of the origins of the characters that you would meet in the book. But I want to have that timeline have key moments in the history visually depicted, right? So I've got certain things I know I want Joe to produce for that. And, and also include art for, in addition to the maps, art for the various adventures, things that GMs could show players to bring a particular scene alive, or to give a sense of how the NPCs look like, what the NPCs look like in action. And then at the next level, it would be big art, splash pages that would do more of the same, but introducing the different chapters. And then the last of the stretch goals would be the system specific coverage, right? And so stretch goal wise, that's that. But yeah, in addition to the original characters and the adventures and the timeline that I just mentioned, there's also the city of Del Rey, which is the fictional city that the adventure is set in, and that'll have its own city map, GM and or judge and player version of the map.
Hey, can I ask the stupid
Yeah.
guy question? And just, I mean,
Yeah.
if we were comparing Del Rey to, say, Metropolis or Gotham, where would you put it in that spectrum?
Okay, so Del Rey is a fictional San Francisco, but the way that I wrote the description is that during the day, it's much more like Metropolis, city of the future, technology, totally gentrified in a lot of ways, all of that, kind of like, proud of its history, shining. But then at night, when the mists come in and roll in, it turns into more of a Gotham, right? So
kind of like Baywatch Nights.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You could go there if you want.
Did that just happen?
It did. Sorry, I blame the cat.
We should all be ashamed of ourselves.
I feel dirty and happy at the same time.
You could go there if
Derpy.
you want.
Derpy.
Oh man. And
I don't know how we recover from that.
Yeah, and I've been sober all of 2019 so far, so I don't know.
8 days, dude. That gets you a chip at some places.
Yeah, not the places I go to. I get ridiculed and mocked. What do you mean you don't know how to drink? Well, I'm on furlough, man. I ain't getting paid.
Oh, that's right.
Oh man.
You got to deal with the shutdown. Sorry about that, Nick.
Yeah, and I still got to go to work, which is super awesome.
That sucks. That sucks.
But I was talking with I put up in the chat just ahead of it. I mean, you even at the end of this, there's a big dust up with one of the big bads. You put in a brigade combat team in there. I mean,
yeah.
Can you talk about developing that?
Well, that I bothered you so much about that. I don't think, and at one point I remember I kept sending Walt messages like, okay, I don't know anything about the military, but if there was a force that was going to be meeting this and doing this, what would it look like? What would be the composition? And he'd give me an answer, and I just keep asking like more specifics. And at one point Walt wrote back, is like, are you writing this are you asking me just to know, or is this actually going to have mechanical consequences? I'm like, it has mechanical consequences, man. So he broke it down beautifully for me.
Did you give him the task org?
I did.
All right, here's your higher headquarters, and then the branch, all the way down to like the team level.
But basically, what came out of that is that I was designing, and this is the big rules edition or optional rule edition to Supers that comes out of this, which is that I wanted a mass combat system where I could have a big military force fight another big military force, have super villains and superheroes, NPC supervillains and superheroes in the mix, and have the player characters be able to interact with that, not in a hand wavy way, but in a way that was actually consequential, right? So a powerful superhero could say, I'm going to attack the whole brigade combat team on my own. And that would use the Mook rules. There'd be a very large die pool that would be used against the hero. The hero would then fight that and whatever. But heroes can also opt to say, I'm Batman or I'm Blue Beetle. I can't take on the whole brigade combat team. So I'm going to position myself to attack one one fire team in this, and they could choose to do that, and they have to make a maneuver roll to get in position, and then have their round by round encounter be with that particular team. But if they're successful, they weaken the structure of the larger unit, right? So you could have a hero, a powerful like Thor or Superman, taking on the whole team. You could have smaller heroes taking out the smaller teams, and together kind of wheedling away at the structure of this team, of this large military unit. And within that whole thing, they're making maneuver rolls, and if they screw up the maneuver rolls, they can end up fighting more than they anticipated, or meeting a supervillain on the battlefield in addition to what they were trying to fight, and all of that. So that was the most complex thing I did in this. And to be honest, I'm trying to figure out, and I'll figure out how to do it, but how do I write or rewrite that adventure for systems other than, or that encounter for systems other than Supers? Because Supers gave me the mechanics to do that. I'm probably going to have to use, there are other things and other systems that I can maybe build out of, or I might just have to kind of have it be a little hand wavy there at the end. I'm not sure, but it's one of the things that I'm most proud of in this, in terms of like the rules, the construction of the rules.
I got a feeling that'll probably be the really come to life in an actual play podcast. Maybe we could sample that here sometime soon.
Don't you threaten me with a good time. General Garber could run the military unit.
General, like I would ever make it past Captain. My mouth gets in the way.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
Well, hey, let's definitely set that up. And I'm trying to launch the BAMF Twitch channel in 2019. Knock on wood. So maybe that could be a good way to break that cherry. So
cool.
Let's talk about that. But all right, it's about 4 o'clock Mountain Time. I got to get back to slaving away in my oatmeal-colored cubicle. I think we should wrap things up. Any closing thoughts, guys?
No, it's a good time.
Aqua, bro. Hydro cannons.
And don't forget to run out and back the Superverse right now on Kickstarter.
I did it during this podcast.
Yeah,
you were
the one who put them over the line, didn't you?
No, they were already 100% funded. I'm adding to it now. Stretch goals, baby.
Thanks so much, sir. Much appreciated. And I've actually been sweating it all day because I want to immediately get back to all my backers and say thank you. But I've been at school teaching all day long, and I'm like, I have to wait for tonight. But everybody will get a message tonight.
Yeah, day jobs suck that way. I really understand. But hey, it's good. And if you want to check out, if you just go to Kickstarter, do a search for Superverse, it pops up. If you go to Google and just search for Kickstarter Superverse, it's the first thing that comes up. So check it out. And Aldo, Nick, Walt, appreciate you guys coming out today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
And,
no problem.
Pleasure, guys.
Anybody have any closing thoughts before we knock it off? Nope, that's it.
Polkai football rules.
And on that happy note, we will catch you next time on the BAMF podcast.